Welcome back to our Wilds of Eldrain limited set review. Today, we're going to be going over every single red card, giving it a rating between 1 and 5 based on how we feel it will perform in the average red deck. Yanks is on the call with us again. Welcome back, Yanks.
Glad to be back, even if it's for such a terrible color.
Whatever, get out of here. If you guys did miss our introduction to Wilds of Eldrain, make sure you guys check that video out first, because we do go over returning and new mechanics, which are really important as far as making these set reviews run really quickly, and also the draftable archetypes, which we will touch on for specific cards depending on when it is relevant. All right, we're going to go ahead and start off right away with Aggravated Assault. We have a 3-mana enchantment that says, for 5 mana, untap all creatures you control. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase. Activate only as a sorcery. So, certainly going to be a good card in a constructed sort of commander thing, but is this limited playable?
I mean, I think it is. Getting an extra combat phase in any sort of deck that's playing a bunch of creatures to the board is pretty frightening for the opponent.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be insanely aggressive or have a lot of evasive creatures makes me want to have this. So if you've got, in this case, Menace, or maybe if you're in like the Is It Spells deck and you've got some flyers, that makes me a little bit happier. But I feel like in a situation where you are in a board stall or you're behind on board, then this doesn't help you a ton.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, this does absolutely nothing if you're behind. If you're in a board stall, it makes it really awkward for them to try to attack you, knowing that you can attack back twice.
Yeah, but it just incentivizes them to make trades with you, just basically mitigating this card altogether, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends at what you've got going on in your deck. If you are able to, if you think you want to just drag the game out even longer, they can't try to end the game quickly with this out. Because if they start getting aggressive, you just let things through and swing back, and then swing back again.
Not my cup of tea. I think I'm probably not going to be playing much of this, but I would be very interested to see if it works out in limited. So for me, I'm going to say this is playable. I'm going to give it like a 2.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit higher, but not much, like a 2-5.
All right, let's keep it going to Belligerent of the Ball. We have a 3-mana 3/3 Ogre Warrior with Celebration. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if 2 permanents entered the battlefield, target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains Menace until end of turn. I like that it doesn't need to attack, so it can count as one of those permanents that come into play, and it's well costed on its own. I think this is a solid card.
Yeah, you're getting plenty of stats that you want, and the fact that anything else entering the battlefield that turn, assuming you're nothing on board, probably gets your 2-drop through.
Yeah, absolutely. So solid overall card. I think I would probably rate this. It's good stats on its own. I feel like this is a 3.
Yeah, I've got this as a 3 too.
All right. Bellowing Bruiser, 5 mana for a 4/4 with Adventure. Tap up to 2 target creatures can't block this turn. That could just be a W on this side of this card. And it also has a 4/4 Haster for 5 mana on the other side. Seems solid for a 5-drop.
Yeah, I never liked those, like, up to a couple creatures can't block this turn, but you're getting it for free here.
I like it when it's like deal 1 damage, those creatures cannot block. Yes. Like those things are game ending. But yeah, if it's just like 2, then like it's too situational. Sometimes it won't be enough to get through, and sometimes it's just too low impact. But this one's free, and I think it's on a fine creature on its own. So I think that this is a 2/5 for me.
Yeah, it lets you put this type of card into your deck or that type of effect into your deck without it being completely dead if you're behind.
Absolutely. Do you like the rating?
I like it at a 2/5.
All right, I'm going to let you take the next 2.
Bespoke Battle Garb. It's a 2-mana equipment, 1 in a red. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. It has Celebration. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, attach this up to 1 target creature you control. And it has Equip 2.
It can equip for free a good chunk of the time, and the Equip 2 isn't too bad. It's a little low impact for me if it didn't have the Celebration, but with it, I think it's actually kind of cute.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I don't love equipment that don't provide any toughness.
Yeah.
Because this is never going to not never, but rarely going to help you win combat. It might help you trade.
I mean,
Um,
in a format with like mites and rat tokens, like those kinds of things, I feel like that's where these shine. Soldier tokens. I think that this might be okay.
yeah, that's about how I feel about the card. It might be okay.
Yeah, this feels like a 2. It's going to get cut most of the time, but there will be some low to the ground wide decks that will be able to capitalize on this sort of a card.
Yeah, if you're making tons of tokens, or if you kind of like the belligerent, or kind of like the aggravated assault, if you have a bunch of evasive creatures, something like this is nice on them.
Yeah. It doesn't say it's sorcery speed, so I'm wondering, is there like things that you could like flash in or like make rolls at instant speed and just like equip this in combat? It'd be cute.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, Blood Moon. Non-basic lands are mountains. This is a constructed card. This is a 0.
This card is mean.
Mean
Yeah, it's a 0.
for constructed players. We don't care about that stuff here.
It's a very nice target for Hydroblast, though.
Boundary Lands Ranger. 2 mana for a 2/2 human ranger at the beginning of combat on your turn. You may, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. So it's a bear that allows you to sometimes to ferocious, not loot, but scavenge. What is it called?
Rummage.
Rummage. Thank you. Scavenge. I knew that. I knew it wasn't right. Yes. So it's a bear that allows you to rummage. I like it.
Yeah, it's one of the first things we've seen for supporting the kind of Gruul archetype, which makes sense because we haven't done red or green yet.
Yeah,
it's just upside on this card.
Yeah.
To a card you're okay to play anyway.
That said, if you're not in Gruul, you're looking pretty measly. You're not likely to trigger that ability super often. But it is beginning of your combat, which I like, so you can actually main phase this and get that trigger and control when you do it if you want. Or you can main phase your 4-drop on turn 4 and get that trigger. It doesn't need to survive an entire turn cycle to get your benefit.
Yeah, and you can occasionally get some stuff from like Bespoke Battle Garb that we just saw that might be turning a 2-power creature into a 4.
Yeah. Rating-wise, I think that this is, to me, still a 2. I feel like it'll play up in exactly one deck, but for the most part, I think it's just a bear with some upside.
Yep, agreed completely.
All right. Charming Scoundrel. 2 mana for a 1/1 with haste. When it enters the battlefield, you can choose one. You can discard a card and draw. You can create a treasure token, or you can create a wicked roll attached to a target creature you control. So 2 modes of this: activate, celebrate.
Yes. Yeah. And the other one is just a nice little rummage effect.
Yeah, which is a little high costed, but I feel like that's kind of the low roll on it. I'm happy to pay 2 mana for a 1/1 haster with the other 2, but if I have to loot away, rummage away a thing, I'm kind of sad at that rate.
Yeah, but there's a decent chance you're happier with that if you draw that in the late game to just pitch a land out of your hand and get something else.
Yeah, I would rather do that than the treasure token for sure. But early on, I think I want this as a tempo 2-drop, and I want to be doing one of those 2 other effects. Seems good. This is like a solid 3.
I think I'm a little low on that. I think I'm like a 2/5 just because it's everything it does is low impact. And oftentimes it's just going to be a 2/2. Like a 1/1 that attaches the Wicked to itself.
Yeah. I really value that flexibility. I really value treasure tokens. I really value the celebration. So yeah, about a 0.5 point difference.
Yeah.
All right, cut in. We have a 4 mana sorcery. It deals 4 damage to target creature. Create a young hero roll attached to up to 1 creature. Okay, you get a permanent and 4 damage. It's a little pricey. Seeing 4 damage on a 4 mana spell is a little high when we're used to things like Lava Coil.
Yeah, this card is fine, but it feels underwhelming compared to like some of the black removal that we saw.
Yeah. I do think that rolls are going to be pretty strong, so I'm willing to give it a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but I do think that this is much weaker than what we're used to seeing. I'm going to give this like a 3 at its base. I'm hoping red has something more to offer.
Agreed, I've got it as a 3.
All right, Dragon Mantle, 1 mana for an enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. I like this. Enchant creature gets pay 1 red and +1/+0. So it just replaces itself and gives a creature fire breathing. I'm here for it. It's pretty okay if you have evasive creatures. It's good if you're trying to have a celebration.
Yeah, it's good, but it's fine with bargain because it replaces itself and gives you something to sacrifice. But yeah, overall, it's just kind of fine at everything.
Yeah. I kind of give these cards like a 2. I don't. If it didn't replace itself, I would say it's like not playable. I'd give it like a 1.5 if you are short on playables. But because it does, I'm willing to put it at a 2.
Yeah, that's where I've got it.
Edgewall Pack. We have a 4 mana 3/3 dog with menace. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 rat token that cannot block. Is the rat telling the dogs what to do in this art?
I'm trying to figure that out because I'm not 100% sure why a dog is summoning a rat.
Well, so the mayor sent the hounds to root out the Lord Skitter, which is the rat lord, but their loyalty was easily bought with a handful of bones. So now the dogs are working for the rat, and the rat is like telling him what to do. Hammy, your loyalty would not be bought easily, right?
I think we know the answer to that.
That's true. He doesn't love me. It's a 4/4 for 4 with menace. It's fine. I think this is like... I kind of like it for bargain and stuff like that. It's kind of cute if you need multiple permanents and celebrate. Oh, it's a little bit better than I thought. It's probably like a 2/5.
Yeah, that's where I've got it as well.
It's an enabler more than it is a powerful card on its own, but it does enable quite well and leaves you with a pretty chunky body. Embereth Veteran, a 1 mana 2/1. You can pay 1 to sacrifice it and create a young hero role. Okay. Little low impact for my taste in limited, but I'm not in love with it.
No, I mean, Savannah Lions are always okay. Like they're not the worst, especially if you're aggressive. But yeah, that's mostly what this is, and a chance to trigger, like if you have any things that go to the graveyard synergies or enchantments entering the battlefield. Boros is probably happy with this, but nothing else is.
Pretty low impact, so I'm just gonna give it like a 1.5. I feel like most decks I'm not interested in playing this.
Agreed, yeah, I think 1.5 is right. You can stick it in your deck, but you're not happy with it.
And you can certainly put it into, and it'll play like, 2 in a more aggressive deck, but for the most part, it's just like, oh, I don't have 1 or 2 drops, let's throw this in there. Fiery Emancipation. We have 3 red for an enchantment. If a source would control deals combat damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to the permanent instead. It's a lot of mana.
So it's a lot of mana to spend your turn 6 or turn 8 not doing anything.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like we've seen this type of card before. They never play well.
I agree with that. This is a constructed card for sure.
Yeah.
It's just triple is like a weird word for me not to be like, wait, can we make this work? But no, I don't think we are. I don't think. I mean, is there like a world where you have like an is it deck or some sort of thing that like pings a creature that'll ping you? Then maybe, but I don't.
Yeah, it just feels very win more.
Yeah.
To me, like most of the time, you can afford to spend 6 mana on a do nothing. You're probably winning that game anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. You probably would just rather this be another creature. And if your creatures are connecting, then you already are happy anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to call that a 1.
Yeah, it's a 1.
Flick a coin, 3 mana for an instant. Flick a coin deals 1 damage to any target. Create a treasure token and draw a card. Huh. That's a lot of words.
Yeah.
And I like them all.
I like all of them except the number 1.
I mean, there was plenty of 3/1s, 2/1 mices, rats. I'm okay with the first one.
Yeah, this card feels like it spins its wheels. Like it does a lot of things, none of which add up to anything. Like again, you
Did
can
you play
play
Lord of the Rings? Like those were some of the best cards, like the birthday celebration and the other one where the like pulling the string one.
pulling the string.
It was like 2 mana, tap a creature, scry it, draw, or something like that.
I thought that card was terrible.
No, though they all performed pretty well. And this feels similar to that.
Yeah, I think you're fine to play this card. Any card that, for the most part, any card that says draw a card, you can play. And occasionally, yeah, it'll be very good. I think a lot of times you're just gonna spend 3 mana to poke them in the face, and draw a card.
I don't think that's true. I'm happier with this card. I'm probably not cutting one of these in every deck. That said, I still think it's like a 2/5.
Yeah, I think I've got it at a 2, a little lower, but either way, it's fine.
Ooh, Elven Knots. I think that you're right there. Someone in chat called it out. Food Fight. 2 mana for an enchantment. Sacrifice. Artifacts you control have pay to sacrifice this artifact. It deals damage to any target equal to 1 plus the number of permanents named Food Fight you control. So this is a constructed card in that you need multiples of them to then sack all the artifacts, but if you have food tokens, you can sack them to deal 1 damage to any target instead. That's not worth it.
Yeah. I guess if you... No. I was going to say, I guess if you have a lot of treasure, but no, it's just not good enough.
No. And you have to pay too, so like... The only way that this is good is if you have more than 1 out, which we're not really doing at rare in limited. So if this was uncommon, I feel like this would be a cookie.
Sure. This is 2 mana, sack an artifact, shock something. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just build into food and treasures and call it a day. I mean, that seems like pretty fun.
Yeah, if that was cheaper, if that was cheaper than 2, that activation maybe. If that was 1 or free.
So I think that's just a 1. Moving on, we got Frantic Firebolt. 3 mana for an instant. Deals X damage to target creature, where X is 2 plus the number of cards in your graveyard that are instant cards, sorcery cards, and or have an adventure. So it's automatically 2 damage for 3 mana.
Yeah, and you're looking for this to be probably 4 damage to be pretty happy with it.
It is instant speed, so like if it's always 3 or higher, I think I'm like living that world. I think this is going to be very good, actually. It's slow. It's not the first removal spell you're casting, but I don't think I'm cutting this either.
No, I'm not cutting this. And these type of cards, although a lot of times recently they've been multicolor and blue-red, like the Gandalf's one in the last set, they tend to play pretty well. This one could play even better, given that it doesn't require you to flood your deck with spells because of the adventure portion.
Yeah. I think this is a solid card. I'm going to give this... I think it's going to play very well. Like, it doesn't feel insane, but I think it's going to be very good. I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite on that premium level, but it's right below it at a 3.5.
All right. 9 Crescendo. We have 3 mana for an instant. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies this turn, create a black rat that cannot block. Trumpet Blast that replaces itself. Oh boy. I love it.
Yeah, as will come as no surprise, I hate it.
I can't wait to kill you with this card, Yanks. I've
died to lots of bad cards, but what you don't know is how many times you win because it's sitting in their hand and that's a dead card for them.
No, Yanks. No, I'm going to kill you with this card. Trumpet Blast, I think, is cool. The fact that it replaces all of the things, I mean, it has to be non-token, but that's okay. I feel like people are typically more incentivized to trade with the the non-token things anyway. So yeah, I'm fine with this. I'm probably playing this in every deck or pretty close to it. So I'm gonna say it's like a 2/5.
So the thing with this is it does sort of replace the cards, but what it doesn't do is anything to protect you on the way back. So this is like you're in a swingy
You're
race.
playing red.
We
don't care about the way back.
You could be in a racing situation.
Yeah, and I'm in red. Don't care. Red, go. Go.
Someone else can play red also.
And that's fine. And then I just hope that I have more trumpet blasts than they do. Like, duh.
Yeah, I think I have this as like a 1.5. I'll play it in the Boros aggro deck, but that's about it.
I think it could be very good in like, is it spells and stuff too?
You have like 2 creatures in those
and
decks.
And Gruul, usually. You're going to be what do you mean? No, is it?
Out at any one time? You don't have a lot of creatures out in Is It? I'm not saying in the whole deck.
No, you're wrong. Go, Trumpet Blast. All right. Goblin Bombardment. 2 mana for an enchantment. Sacrifice a creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to any target. So good in Rakdos Rats?
Yeah. Anything that you could be making a bunch of tokens, which we think is probably just Rakdos.
Yeah, Selesnya wasn't doing the rats thing, wasn't doing tokens like it typically is. Azorius wasn't making like soldiers like we saw in the last few. So yeah, not as many token synergies because we have food and treasures, which leads to less token creatures, which is really weird in a set where they have on the special sheet hardened scales and like, hardened scales is more +1/+1 counters, but they tend to go hand in hand with things that also make creatures. And then also Doubling Season is in this too.
Yeah, so
that's sad.
There were some fairies, I guess, in blue, but that deck's not going to be really a token deck. So you'll know if you want this card. I think most of the time it'll do what goblin things tend to do and blow up in their faces.
All right, so we agree a 1 then?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna let you take the next 2.
Godric Cloaked Reveler. It's a 3 mana 3/3 legendary human noble. 1 red. Has haste. And the celebration effect is it becomes a dragon with base power and toughness 4/4, flying, and fire breathing.
So on turn 4, if you play that dog that makes a rat, you just get to dome them for 4?
Yeah. And there's a decent chance you've hit him for 3 the turn before since it has haste.
Whoa. This card is good.
Yeah.
This is what I like my rares to do. Like, it's not like, oh, they won the game, but it's like, oh, this is spicy. Yeah, this card's fantastic. I'm going to give this a 4.
Yeah. This card's a 4. Its weakness is what a lot of things are, right? If you just kill it, didn't leave any long-term value, but because it has haste, you're probably getting somewhere.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Grabby Giant, 4 mana for a 4/3 with Adventure. You can pay 2 to create a treasure token, and you can pay 4 to make it a 4/3 with Reach, pay 3, sacrifice an artifact, or land and draw a card. Or land I don't need, you say. Huh. Or food, you say. Huh. Yeah, this seems good.
Yeah, it's an expensive activation, but it's worth it because you're getting rid of stuff you don't care about.
It fuels itself. It makes a treasure token. And it's a 4/3 with Reach for 4 mana. That's like already fine. I'm very high on this.
No, this card's good. The enormous bow it has is, I don't know, making me laugh for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like, is that supposed to be why it has Reach rather than the fact that it can literally just reach up and grab something?
I mean, if the format is slow, this isn't going to play as well as I think it will, but I do think that this is very good. It's better than most of the 3s I've been giving, so I'm going to say this is a 3.5.
I think it's just under that for me. I've got it as a 3, but it's close. It's on the border.
All right. Grand Ball Guest. 2 mana for a 2/2 human peasant with Celebration. It gets +1/+1 and has trample if 2 permanents have entered the battlefield this turn. So it turns into a 3/3 with trample. That's a bear with some upside. I think that's a fine card. I don't know how, like, even if you have a lot of celebration stuff, I'm not willing to be like, oh, this is like plays massively up, because the upside is good, but not like making or breaking any games. So it's probably just still a 2 for me, and then maybe a 2/5 in the celebration deck.
Yeah, the biggest difference so far between the best celebration cards and the weaker ones are the ones that can target other creatures.
Yeah.
So when they come in, they can kind of help fuel celebration, or if they have haste.
Agreed.
So yeah, I think this is just a bear because you have to get 2 other permanents to come in for it to really get an effect.
All right. So we are agreed at a 2. Hired Spear Guard, 1 mana, 1/1 with haste. When it dies, create a rat. So this poor little Spear Guard died to a rat. And then you get the rat.
Very dumb rats, as the flavor text points out.
Why are you vermin so draft? This is a warehouse full of bricks. Bricks! You can't eat them! Maybe there's like a hurricane coming and they need shelter.
We'll go with that. Or maybe they're finding bones in there to bribe the dogs.
So this is an okay card for like bargain decks, but I'm not seeing a lot of bargain in red so far.
Yeah, me neither, which is surprising because that bargain feels very Grixis-y, so I would have thought it would have been in this color, but we still got some time.
So even if I'm in an aggressive deck, a 1/1 haster for 1, like, I mean, Raging Goblin has not been good in a while, so not really my thing. I think I'll pass on this, and I'm going to give it a 1.5.
Yeah, and actually, the part I keep forgetting about bargain is that you can't sacrifice this to bargain.
Oh yeah, you can't. Oh, I've already been got by it, and I haven't even had the early access event yet.
It's still okay because you can sacrifice the token it makes, but
yes, but you can't sacrifice this, which means, I mean, this isn't trading with like hardly anything. So
yeah,
no, thank you. Hearth Elemental, 6 mana for an elemental with adventure. You can pay the sorcery adventure, discard your hand, and draw 2 cards for 2 mana. I like this. If this is it's 6 mana, so it's the last card you play.
Yep.
Draw 2, and then you take this out of the adventure zone, and then you get 3 cards. This seems nice.
Yeah, I mean that's what that you might as well just say you can only cast this if you have no cards in your hand, because that's mostly when you should be casting a card.
Yeah.
Or you have one extra land or something.
This is awesome. I'm definitely going to be playing this. I think this card is a solid... I didn't even read the rest of the card. It's a 4/5 for 6. I was already happy with it. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard that are instant or sorcery. So this is the spells deck. Okay. I mean, it does not change my opinion on this card at all. I am going to play it at a 3.
Yeah, the little cost reduction just makes it easier to cast Stoke Genius as the last card in your hand, and then still also play this in the same turn.
You agree at a 3?
I agree to 3, yep.
All right. Your turn.
Mtgnerdgirl the Pyrohammer. 2 red for a legendary human knight. That's a 4/4. Whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control that targets only a single creature deals damage to that creature, Mtgnerdgirl deals that much damage to each opponent. So bolt something and you bolt their face too.
Yeah.
Seems pretty good to me on a perfectly costed 4/4.
Yeah, I find that red burn is hard to find though. But it's still a 4/4 for 4. I'm playing it regardless.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen 2 so far. I mean, 3 counting the deal 1.
Yeah, I'm hoping, like, that 4 mana deal 4, I'm hoping that there are more premium versions at, like, 2 mana that, like, obviously always go very early, and then those ones will be a little bit more, like, abundant to be able to use, but I I find that my red decks have like 1/3 damage burn spell, and that's like it. And then the rest of my removal is either white or black or some other color. Just because there is usually a much less red premium burn, and I would just rather fill the removal slots in another color.
So there are 4 more burn spells coming up in red.
Okay. And we've already seen like 2.5.
Yes.
Okay.
Really, it's 3.5 because one of them's a mythic, is an adventure at mythic. So say 3.5 more.
Okay. Fair enough. So then there's probably, 3.5 more. We've seen 2.5. So all right. That's maybe gets a little bit more relevant. Rating wise, probably a 3.5.
Yeah, the stats on its own would probably be, at least a 2.5, if not a 3, and then just a little bit of a bump.
I'm probably just at a 3, honestly.
Yeah, maybe it's more like a 3/4 or something. But yeah, that averages to a 3.5. But yeah, I think a 3 is fine.
It's a 3/4 if you're the only red player at the table.
Yes. Or if you got a ridiculous sealed deck.
Impact Tremors, 2 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Come on, 2HG! Let's go!
Yes. I was about to say no thank you, but yes for 2HG, agreed.
I want to open 3 of these in my 2HG pool and call it a day. I don't think that this is going to be playable in Limited.
No.
All right.
It
is a 1. Kindled Heroism. We have a 1 mana instant. Target creature with +1/+0 gains first strike till end of turn. Scry 1. These are getting kind of more playable, but still, filler, short on cards. I'm going to give it a 1.5.
Yeah, you can play one of these, but that's about it. I like that as a 1.5.
Someone in chat says, Magic format names still throwing me. Are we evaluating these for the draft format? So this is draft and sealed kind of smashed together. So kind of hedging the card depending on the average pool for both sealed and draft. Obviously, like some slower cards might be a little bit better in sealed, quicker cards in draft, but we try to do a happy medium. So have no bearing on constructed. So like, alchemy, standard, explorer, whatever, legacy, any of that stuff. All right, moving on to...
I think you just named like the 4 least played constructed formats.
Yep. I started with Arena, and then I decided, I should say like a paper one, and then I jumped to Legacy, because Standard and stuff was...
Pioneer, Modern. I guess Vintage would be one of the least played.
Whatever, Yanks. Be mean. All right.
I forgot Explorer was still a thing.
Corvold and the Noble Thief. A saga, 4 mana. Chapters 1 and 2, create a treasure. Chapter 3, exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library. You may play those cards this turn. But it doesn't say as though mana of any color or whatever. So if your opponent's not playing red, you do nothing?
Yeah. I guess that's why you get 2 treasures.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you can cast 2 spells, essentially, most likely. All right, I'm a little bit more for it, but for 4 mana, that's not the business I want to be in.
No, I'm not a huge fan of this card. I mean, it's not the worst, like, near the top end of an aggro deck, because sort of, like, get some extra, sort of red-ish card draw.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it.
Yeah. This is not my cup of tea. I am going to pass on it. It's playable. If you're 3 colors and you want the treasures, this is like a good backup where it's like, oh, if I don't need the colors, I can use the treasures for this thing. It's fine. It does say you may play, so you can also hit their lands, which is kind of neat. So I'm going to say it's playable, but it's just like a 2.
Yeah, it triggers Celebration on its own the turn it comes in, which is nice too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a 2.
All right. Ley Line of Lightning, 4 mana. If it's in your opening hand at the start of the game, you may put it onto the battlefield to start the game. Whenever you cast a spell, you may pay 1. If you do, Ley Line, it deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. I wish white Ley Line was this impactful. I think it's whenever you cast a spell, pay 1 to deal a damage to the player. I mean, there's a world where I'm maybe playing this as like a 23rd playable when I switched colors mid-draft.
Yeah, that's probably about it. I was just looking up. I didn't even know this card existed. Because it's a reprint in this. I did not know it was in Guild Pact.
It is a 1.5.
Yeah.
Mana Flare, 3 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land can produce. I don't really want to ramp both of us at the cost of a card, so I'm going to say this is a 1.
Yeah, this card's awful for limited. It's barely good for constructed.
All right. Moving on. Merry Bards, 3 mana for a 3/2 human bard. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 1. If you do, create a young hero role attached to target creature you control, so it doesn't need to be it. That's on rate, and I'm really kind of high on these rolls, so I'm going to say this is a 2.5.
Yeah, that sounds right. You're getting two permanents for 1 at reasonable cost. 2.5 sounds about right.
Celebration trigger, all the things. All right. If you have the 2/2 that triggers on Celebrate, and then you put the roll onto that, you're actually quite aggressive there. That's cute.
I mean, the roll's a little weird, right? That young hero roll's not great. It doesn't give any stats on its own, and you get the 1 counter boost, and then it stops being relevant.
Yeah, but then you could sack it or do something, but then it's permanently a 3/3, and then every time you celebrate from there, it turns into a 4/4, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. With that card, yeah.
Oh, actually, it gets 2 counters because it's a 2/2, right? So you play this, you trigger its ability. It's a 3/3. It attacks. It gets another counter. The next turn, it's just a 3/3, and you don't trigger. And then you attack again. It becomes a 4/4.
Yeah, true.
And then the next turn, you trigger the Celebrate, and it's a 5/5. That's pretty spicy.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, I think this is a solid 2/5. I'm pretty happy with this in the aggressive decks. This is going to be Chef's Kiss for sure.
No, that's a different card.
Oh, is that a real card?
Yeah, this was in Modern Horizons too.
Well, this is orchestra. This is a symphony. I don't know. Whatever. Shut up. Mine Cart Daredevil, 3 mana for a 4/2 Dwarf Knight with Adventure. Target creature gets +2/+1 until end of turn, and it's also a 4/2. So this is just the grown-up version of the last knight.
Yeah,
and he even had Rimrock Knight. Yeah, and he even had like a pickaxe, right?
I believe so.
And that shit was standard playable.
Yeah, no, that was much better. I think just because
I think so too.
It was overall cheaper on both sides.
Yeah. I agree, but it is nice to see Rimrock Knight back in action.
Agreed.
So rating wise, I think this is okay. I like that it gives a little booty, so it's like a bit of a combat trick. It could just punch somebody and or trade up massively or make your creature live, which I'm a big fan of. And then it's 3 mana 4/2, which is the vanilla that sometimes sees play anyway when you need a 3-drop. So I think this is okay. It's a 2.
Yeah, I think it's 2.
It might be a 2/5 if your deck wants that combat trick, because I actually value the combat trick a little higher than I do the creature.
I think the trick is better as well, but you don't tend to want a lot of 2-mana combat tricks.
I do. Whatever.
But they're bad.
Well, you play Magic differently than I do. Monstrous Rage, 1 mana for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Create a monster roll attached to it. So it gets +1/+1 and has trample. So it ends up giving it +3/+1 that turn for 1 mana at instant speed and trample.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is a lot. And it continues and leaves something on the board, and you can bargain it away. You can do all sorts of stuff. Helps with Celebrate. At instant speed, you pre-combat your creature and then play this, triggering the Celebrate. That's cute. Yep. I'm here for it. I think this card is quite good. I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Give it a 2.5. It gets rounded up because of the flavor text.
When you say flavor text, you have to read it for our guests.
So just what big paws... Thomas the Woodsman, last words.
Very, very good. Raging Battle Mouse, 2 mana for a 2/1 mouse. The second spell you cast each turn costs 1 less to cast, and if you have Celebration at the beginning of combat on your turn, if 2 or more non-land permanents entered, blah, 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 target creature you control gets +1/+1. That's kind of low impact, but it is just 2 mana mouse. So, like, I'm here for it. I think this is solid. I'm going to say that this is... I'm going to say this is actually a 3.5. I like this card.
Wow. Oh, we're way off on this. I like this card, but I don't like it nearly that much.
I think this is much, much better than, like, the common and uncommons where I'm like, yes, curve filling goodness. This is doing everything I want in an aggro deck. It is helping you poop out the rest of your hand, getting to double spell on turn 3 and 4, super, super big for these aggro decks. And also then benefiting you for doing that in pumping up all your other creatures. Even if you're not super aggro, I still think that this does a lot. And this for a 2-drop is insanely good, personally.
I mean, I think it's a perfectly fine 2-drop. I mean, better than that. It's a premium 2-drop, but I don't.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think it does enough to be a 3.5.
So for me, every card slot, like a 1-drop is never going to be as impactful as a 6-drop, right? But like for a 2-drop, this feels as impactful as it gets. So I'm inclined to give it a very good rating.
I mean, if it's as impactful as it gets, wouldn't that make it a 5?
Well, 5s are game-winning, like, ending bombs, which you're not seeing a lot of in 2-drops. Like, if the game ended on 2, we would be playing your stupid formats.
Yeah. What are you talking? Wait. How can my games can't end on 2, and you complain about nothing happening in them?
Yes, they can both be true. They can both be true. 100% can both be true. Feisty. He plays like Legacy and Vintage. So, yeah. I'm more of a standard modern girl, so don't get me wrong, I play modern Boros Burn, so I'm still ending my games on like turn 3, but but just a little longer.
You just actually have to deal 20 damage. I just make them give up.
I only have to deal 19 damage. They always fetch at least once.
At least one fetch land, yeah.
Rating-wise, I'm a 3.5 because I think this is insanely impactful for a 2-drop. What was your rating?
I'm at 2.5.
Oh, yeah, I think this might be the biggest difference. There might be one other card where we
had
were
one other
off.
one, yeah.
But for the most part, we're usually only half a point.
Yeah.
Raid Bombardment, 3 mana for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a creature you control with power 2 or less, whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, Raid Bombardment deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that creature is attacking.
You just generally don't have enough to make this worth it.
I mean, there's a rat deck that wants this, right?
The problem with these kind of cards is that a lot of times you get a ping, but then your things are just dying.
No, and then you cast Trumpet Blast.
But you already have rats, so
no, but
tokens.
all of so you Trumpet Blast your creatures, your 2- and 3-drop creatures, get in some damage, replace them with rats, and then you've pinged them for some damage, and then you attack again, and you Trumpet Blast, and you ping them for some more damage, and then they're dead. I feel like there's a deck that wants this. For sure.
I feel like any deck that wants to be casting a Trumpet Blast doesn't want to take its turn off on turn 3 to play Raid Bombardment.
You're not playing this on turn 3. You're playing this as your curved topper on like turn 5 and 6. Once you've set up. Once they've started to stabilize, this is your reach, right? Like, no, you curve out early game, and once they've stabilized, now you then play this, attack, Trumpet Blast, turn 6. Kill them.
I mean, the set does come out only a couple months away from Christmas, so it could happen.
You're the worst. You're the absolute worst. All right, if I kill someone with Raid Bombardment damage, I'm going to get a cookie.
That's fair.
It's going to happen. It's only an uncommon. I'm going to play multiples of these. I'm going to play like 6 and then just attack with 4 rats and kill someone.
I hope Crumble in Portland has other customers to stay in business.
Not even close. You're so mean. So mean to me in my little aggressive red ways. Ratcheteer Trainee, 2 mana for a 2/1 with adventure.
No, try the name again because it actually matters.
Rat Catcher. that is a different word. Rat Catcher Trainee. 2 mana for a 2/1 with adventure. Create 2 1/1 rat creature tokens with they can't block. It's a 2/1 as long as it's your turn. This has first strike. Ooh. A 2/1 for 2 with first strike that makes 3 bodies. I'm here for it. This feels really good. This is like a 3.
So they're starting to do this as long as it's your turn, or it only has first strike when attacking a lot more. One of the problems is a strong word, but one of the sort of factors in Magic is that the defending player tends to have the advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And things like first strike are so much better on defense because you get to pick where you're blocking and things like that. So they've been sort of moving away, at least on commons and uncommons, from putting full-time first strike on cards.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Haven't you ever played Risk? That's the way it should be.
Yeah, no, I'm not disputing it. I think it's good. I think it's an interesting trend.
Yeah.
I do like this card.
It's a really good way to help the power creep, like to level out the power creep, right? So you can still have these really good cards, but like also taking them back a step. At least for limited.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, I think this card's good. I've got it at like a 2/5.
Okay, half point off on there. I'm really high on this card actually. I'm pretty stoked to play this at
So, some of that's related to the other 2 drop, right? I can't put it higher than that one.
Oh, okay. I think this is very good. So, you're talking about my rare rat?
Yeah, I can't put it higher than that because I think that's better. So,
yeah, that's fair. And I have that at a 3.5. This is at a 3, so that's spot on for me. Yeah. Realm-Scorcher Hellkite, 6 mana for a 4/6 with bargain. Hey, our first red bargain. Flying Haste. When it enters the battlefield, if it was bargained, add 4 mana of any combination. Add 4 mana in any color combination. Pay 2, deal 1 damage to any target. Huh. Okay. So if you bargain, if you do the thing, it can fuel itself for 2 extra pings. Yeah. Or you can just do some stuff, play more spells.
Yeah, at minimum, if it's bargained, you get to ping them twice, or you can kill a creature or something.
Kill a rat or whatever. Yeah, I think this is fine. I mean, it's a mythic. This is going to be like a 5. It's a 4/6 flying haster. So yeah, this is just a straight 5 in the set.
Yeah, the card's great. It's hard to kill. Haste means it forces them to likely take a hit before they can deal with it, and maybe take an extra 2 or lose a creature in the process.
Yeah. Rating wise, yep, straight 5. Yeah. All right, I'm going to let you take the next one.
Redcap Gutter Dweller. This is a 4 mana, 2 red for a 3/3 Goblin Warrior with Menace. When it enters the battlefield, make 2 1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature can't block. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Redcap Gutter Dweller and exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn.
What?
I think this card is great.
This card is fantastic.
It's 5/5 worth of stats for 4 mana over 3 bodies, 3 of which has Menace. Alone, that's really good. And those bodies just make this thing bigger and draw you cards effectively, at least Red's version of drawing cards.
This is very good. Rating-wise, what are you thinking?
I think this is like a 4.5.
Yeah, I was on the fence between a 4.5 and a 4. But it does say beginning of your upkeep, so I feel like, this isn't super hard to destroy. If I get a card draw out of this, I think it's a 4.5. But if not, I think it's a 4.
Yeah, I edged it up just because even if they do kill this right away, it has at least left some value.
Yeah.
Like, you are still getting something. I mean, yeah, you're not happy that they killed it, but you at least got, you still came out a little bit ahead in the trade.
Yeah, and I guess our 5s are things that impact the board in a game-winning way, whereas this is like, okay, you still get some really good value from this, especially if you have any bargains in other colors. So it could be a 4.5. It's somewhere in there.
It's close, yeah.
I will go 4.25, which we've never done before.
Cool.
Red Cap Thief, 3 mana for a Goblin Rogue, 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. I like creating treasures. I would cast this card. It doesn't have any abilities or anything, so it's a little mopey, but it does trigger your Celebrate, so fixes, ramps, great. I think this is like a 2.5.
Doesn't really look very sneaky to be a rogue.
He looks kind of clunky, I agree.
It's kind of conspicuous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this as like a 2.5, just to ramp into a 5-drop the next turn.
All right. Repercussion. We have 3 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature is dealt damage, this deals that much damage to its creature's controller. Whenever a creature is dealt damage. So you can't block either. It hurts you as well. But if you're like burning their creatures with burn spells, okay, or one-sided punch spells.
Yeah, then, any sort of damage like that, it's super punishing to chump blocking.
The other thing that this does too, which is really weird, and it seems weird, but what happens in most aggro decks, right? You get them to like 7, and then they stabilize, and they brick you, and you can't get through. But if you play this, you don't really need to get through. You just run your creatures into their creatures, and it finishes the job. I don't like it. I'm not saying that that's why you run this, but like, I don't know, if you've got a couple of burn spells and you're super aggressive and trying to go underneath them, then maybe this is like a 23rd playable card.
Yeah, it's like and this would feel like a weird comparison, but bear with me, like a sulfuric vortex, something that hits both players. Deal 2 damage to each player, which is sulfuric vortex on each upkeep, but it's favoring the aggressive player.
Yeah,
and you build your deck to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. I play those in my red decks.
Yeah, it's definitely better suited for, sort of constructed where you can really build around it, but you could be aggressive enough for this to matter.
And if you've got 3 burn spells in your deck, you're feeling kind of cute with this.
Well, and also like weird things like, you send your rat in and they just eat it. But if they eat it with a 4/4, they take, or no, I guess it's the other rat. That's
other way around.
If they eat it with a 4/4, you take 4. So that's the bad side of that card.
Yes, but the goal is that you're at 20 because you're the aggro deck and they're at 7 before they manage to get those 4/4s and you've run out of removal, basically.
Yeah, agreed.
So rating-wise, this is a 1.5. I'm sure there's a super hyper-aggressive deck that got real lucky on burn spells that will play this, but the average deck, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's a 1.5.
All right, Rotisserie Elemental. He's got a rotisserie with a chicken on it. Okay, 1 mana for a 1/1 with Menace. When it deals combat damage to a player, put a skewer counter on the elemental. Then you may sacrifice it. If you do, exile the top X cards of your library where X is the number of skewer counters on it. You may play those cards this turn. So you play it, you attack them, you get a card. You play it, attack them, get a card. And then eventually when you get to like 3 or 4, you sacrifice it and you exile the top 4 cards and hope you can play them all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm playing this card. I'm not cutting it, but like, eh.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you're not really getting to draw 4, right? You're getting card selection out of the top 4 because you're only going to get to play 1 or 2 of them.
Well, I'm assuming one's a land.
Yeah. So maybe you can
late
play 3
in the game, you could probably play 2, so you're getting like 3 of the 4.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's pretty slow.
I also don't like that you have to... I wish you could sack it at any time. You have to hit and then sack it. So, like, as soon as they brick you on this, then you're just stuck with it. And it doesn't get +1/+1 for the rotisserie counters. So, I would be much higher if it said, at any time you may sack. And based on rotisserie counters, do a thing. So, I'm just going to say it's a 2.
Yeah, I think it's a 2.
All right. Shared Animosity. 3 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it. That will be relevant in this set. There's, fairies and rats and whatever, and you don't have to name the creature type. So if you have 2 rats and 2 fairies, they're both going to get buffed.
Yeah, I would wish this was in either blue or black for those exact reasons.
I mean, Rakdos Rats is the thing, I think.
True. Yeah, I guess red is making a decent number of rats.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, is it spells? We'll probably have a substantial number of, fairies and things. I'm sure Gruul will have some creature types. And there's always, humans that are going to be in both. I'm fine with sticking this into just about any deck.
Yeah, I think I'm still only putting this in aggressive decks, right? Because it does nothing if you're on the defensive.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have creatures, and you have to want to use those creatures, which...
You can have creatures in block, and this does nothing.
Yeah. This is going to be a higher percentage of my decks than it is yours, certainly.
Yeah, I don't expect to play this card this entire format. I don't think it's terrible. I don't draft those decks often, and so this is a rare on a bonus sheet, so it's not going to come up that much.
Yeah, and whereas me, this is the decks I draft are 70% to want to do this. Rating wise, I still think it's a 23rd playable card. Don't get me wrong. So yeah. I'm just going to give it a 2.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right in that same range.
It'll play massively up in a high synergy thing. I feel like Rakdos Rats is the place where this is perfect.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
Skewer Slinger. It literally has skewers like Wolverine claws.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 2 mana for a 1/3 with reach. Sneaky reach, let's go. When it blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, it deals 1 damage to that creature. Oh, I'm here for that. That seems great.
Yeah.
And it has sneaky reach.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. 2 mana, 1/3 that basically functions as a 2/3.
Yeah. I think this card is very solid for a 2-drop. I'm happy to pick these up and play them at a 3.
Yeah, you probably don't really want this in Boros, right? Because attacking for 1 with your 2-drop is not what you want to do. I
think I'm going to give it a 2/5 because it needs to be lower than the thing that I made lower than the rats, the thing that made all the rats. So this is worse than that, but the rat is at the best. So I'm going to say this is a 2/5.
Yeah, I think I've got this at a 2/5.
All right, Sneak Attack. Pay 1. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. I'm going to say this is not limited playable.
I'm sorry, a combination of the art and flavor text is so good on this card. Corlag carefully prepared to try the new ambush strategy he'd heard about.
And he is a bush.
He is a bush. It's there's nothing remotely sneaky about this card, even though it's called Sneak Attack. It's great.
He's pretending to be a bush.
Yeah, very, very well, apparently, at least to those really dumb knights.
Rating wise, I'm going to give it a 0.
Yeah, there's as far as I'm aware, there are no Eldrazi or Gristlebrand's in this set, so this is a 0.
Song of
Totentans.
I was Tortaments. Why do they make these things so difficult for me? I do not words well. Tortentans, sure. X and a red for a sorcery. Create X 1/1 black rats that can't block. They gain haste until end of turn, and then you cast Trumpet Blast on your next turn, and you win the game. This seems great. It's going to be targets for bargain. It's going to be good for Trumpet Blast and that other card that you wouldn't let me play with.
Raid, it's Raid Bombardment or whatever it is.
Yeah, see, great. But I think this is a good card regardless. So I'm going to give this.
This card is very good.
What are you thinking rating wise?
I think this card's a 4.
I agree.
there are times it won't do anything, but it's just the fact that it's so flexible, right? It can be 2 rats, it can be 6 rats. You're never unhappy to draw this later. It's good.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Bone Splinter Bolt, X and a red with Bargain. It deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker. If the spell was Bargain, it deals twice X instead. So you can sack a food or a treasure or whatever to make the ability cheaper, kill something bigger. I think this is, instant speed. X's red's premium removals has got to be a 4.
Yeah, this card's fantastic. Yeah, nothing else to say, right? Just doubling your X is great with Bargain.
How does making rats help with Bargain? I thought Bargain was artifact or enchantment. It's artifact, enchantment, or token. So creature tokens. You can't sacrifice creatures specifically, but you can sacrifice creature tokens, which is tricky and weirdly worded. Tattered Ratter. Oh, do you remember Mad Ratter?
Yes.
That card was dope. I missed that card. Oh. I want Mad Ratter again, please. Okay, Tattered Ratter, 2 mana for a 2/2. Whenever a rat you control becomes blocked, it gets +2/+0! Holy shit, this card. Holy shit, this made the rat deck real good.
Yes, but to a point. Like, this just basically means you just take 1 from the rats.
Yeah, but that means they can never block them, and these rat decks are going super wide, and it just like...
Well, they can never block them until they deal with that 2/2, which isn't that hard.
You mean a 3/1?
No, until they kill the Tattered Ratter.
Oh, yeah. But if they're spending their removal on my 2-drop bear, that's great. Like, to have this high a synergy at this low a cost on a curve filler, that is super good. Again, I feel like you're giving like 6 mana end game bomb requirements on cards that are highly rated in the 2-drop slot. Like, this is very good for a 2-drop.
I think this card's very good for a 2-drop. I don't think it makes or breaks a deck.
It certainly makes or breaks the rat deck. Oh, this card is great. You're crazy. I mean, it's like a 2 in most decks. According to the average deck rule, this is a 2.
Sure.
But in the rat deck, this is a 3.5.
I can't wait for the rat deck to be terrible.
Oh, shut
I'm going to be
up,
so excited.
Party pooping butt face. God, why you gotta make nobody else have any fun? You are a blue player through and through.
I'm a blue player. Haven't you noticed?
Oh, man. All right. Well, I say it's a split rating of a 2 and a 3.5. What are you giving it?
Magic is a zero-sum game. I have all the fun and they have none. Yeah, it's a 2 that plays up in the rat deck.
That is why we do these set reviews together, but I don't play Magic with you.
No, you just watch and go, what are you doing?
Torch the Tower, 1 mana for an instant with Bargain. It deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If the spell was Bargain, instead it deals 3 damage to that permanent and you scry 1. If the permanent dealt damage by Torch would die, exile instead. So it's a shock plus, which I'm here for. Turns it into a lightning bolt if you have something cheap to sack.
Yeah, and just because I remember reading about this somewhere else, that just to note that it gets exiled regardless of whether or not you bargained.
Correct.
Like, it's a separate clause, even though it talks about it after if the spell was bargained. It's not relevant for that.
Yeah.
Shock/bolt with bargain is great.
Yeah, I think this card is very, very good, and I don't think you're going to have a hard time finding things to bargain for this. It's important to note that you get all these cool pluses that you never get, like, extra damage, get to scry, get to exile, but it doesn't go face. Not always the most relevant in limited, but it can be. So, I mean, I still think this is very good. Rating-wise, I'm certainly always playing the first one of these, but, shocks are good in moderation. So rating, I want to bump it because I like that bargain clause, but usually a shock is just a 3 or a 2.5.
Yeah, I think I've got this as a 3.5.
I think I do as well.
But between the bargain and the fact that we're seeing a lot of relatively powerful X2s, X3s, and not a huge number of major bombs.
And a bunch of really powerful 2-drops, Yanks.
Said that. Well, I said 2 toughness, which I meant 2 drops as well, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to play at least the first 2 of these. I'd probably play a third.
I like how you rate the removal that kills the 2-drops like a full point higher than the 2-drops.
Yeah, because it can also kill like 4 drops.
I think we are in agreement that this card is much better than the regular shock. Pretty happy to have it at a 3.5.
Agreed.
Twisted Fealty. 3 mana for a sorcery. Gain control of target creature. Untap it. It gains haste. And you can create a Wicked Roll token attached to up to 1 creature, so it doesn't need to be the creature you steal. I usually don't like these. I know some sets, they're fun. There's been like 2 or 3 sets in recent history where that was a deck that was very strong. I don't think it will be here. What?
Stupid AFR.
Yeah, AFR, and there was like another witch one back in the day that I used to play that I loved. I forget. It had like Newt in it and a bubbling cauldron or something.
Yeah, it was one of the core sets.
Yeah, and that was my favorite deck, was to play this, all the steel cards, and then do the thing. But it's usually not very good. It's an okay curve topper for very aggressive decks, but I think it's like a 1.5.
Yeah, we didn't see any like free sacrifice outlets in black or really cheap ones. Now, that being said, there was a lot of bargain, particularly on some cheap spells like we just saw with Torch the Tower. So, you know, if you got a bunch of cheap bargain effects, maybe this is worth playing.
Yeah. You got to be able to pay for them. This is 3 mana, so like a lot of times the bargain spells are not the cheapest.
Yeah, you definitely have to make sure you have the right ones, the 1 and 2 mana bargain spells. And then this card becomes pretty good. But otherwise, yeah, it's like a 2.
Yeah. I'm definitely happy to play it if I do have a bargain deck.
Yeah.
Two-Headed Hunter. We have a 5 mana 5/4 with Menace, and you can cast it as an adventure. 2 mana instant speed. Target creature gains double strike. That can be game ending. I'm interested in this card. It's an okay statted creature on its own. This to me looks like a. This feels strong for I guess it's an uncommon. I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm just so high on adventures. I don't know why. I just love them.
Yeah, that's where I'm on it too. The Menace makes me feel far better about the only having 4 toughness, so it can't just be eaten by a 4/2, for example.
Yeah.
And that the adventure can just end the game out of nowhere.
Yep, absolutely. So 3?
Yeah, I like it as a 3.
All right, Unruly Catapult. 3 mana for an 0/4 with Defender. You could tap it. It deals 1 damage to each opponent. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, untap it. Yes! Spells! Let's go!
Thermo Alchemist.
I'm gonna kill people with this card. It was my favorite in the Night stack in Eldraine. There was a 1/3.
Oh, yeah. The
Trebuchet. Yes! It's a spells version of Trebuchet. Oh, my little heart can't take it anymore. I'm such a red player. All right, excellent. I'm excited. I'm going to give this card a 5. You don't even have to cast instants and sorceries. You just clock them. And it's an 0/4, so it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's interesting the different versions of this, right? Like Thermo Alchemist was the same thing. It was only 2 mana, but it was an 0/3. Brimstone Trebuchet was a 1/4, but it also had reach, and it was arguably harder to play knights than instant sorceries. So yeah, no, these cards always are better than they look.
Yeah. So rating wise, in seriousness, I mean, the average deck, it's kind of playable in any deck because you don't really have to have a lot of instant sorceries to just want to play this if you don't have 3-drops, or if your deck is slower and more controlling, like whatever. And if you're in the Is It Spells deck, this seems really good. So it is kind of a split rating card. I think it's like a 2 in any deck. and then it'll play very, very well closer to like a 3 in a Izzet deck.
Yeah, I like that. It's definitely best than Izzet. Probably at its worst than Boros, because you just don't want to spend 3 mana on a card with no power.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that range.
Virtue of Courage, 5 mana for an enchantment with adventure. You can pay 2 at instant speed and deal 2 damage to any target. You can pay 5 to cast it as an enchantment whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent. You may exile that many cards from the top of your library. You may play those cards this turn. So non-combat damage in limited is not the most likely thing to happen, certainly not to your opponent's face. So this is like burn spells and stuff.
And the catapult.
So the average deck not interested in this.
Well, yeah, except, I mean, I'm just looking at this as a 2 mana deal 2 to anything.
Yes.
Which is not great, but it's playable.
It is playable.
And then, you might, if you have a couple other things, maybe you get some relevant out of Virtue of Courage. But yeah, most likely you're not going to get anything out of the enchantment. You just get kind of a mediocre burn spell.
Yeah. I feel like I would run it if I had like a burn spell removal and a trebuchet or something, and then you just play this as the removal spell and don't expect to get anything else out of it, and sometimes you will. But if I don't have those things, if I have like all black removal and no trebuchet, then I don't know, 2 mana, 2 damage to any target. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm just scanning through red to see if we missed anything that also like randomly deals 1 to them or something.
Like the bombardment and stuff? Eh?
I'm gonna choose not to respond to that. Yes, like the bombardment. I actually was looking not at the bonus sheet, but yes, that would be one of them.
Yanks is the ruiner of all fun.
This card's probably like a 2.
I think it's a 2. Cuttable if you have good removal and you can't work on the enchantment side. And if you have any teeny tiny amount of synergy that can go along with the enchantment side, I'm willing to run it as a subpar removal. Witch's Mark.
Sounds about right.
2 mana for a sorcery. You may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards and create a Wicked Roll attached to one of your creatures. Hey, I like rolls, and this is an okay ability I see in most sets, and it's usually playable when you don't have card draw and you want to pitch a land late in the game to draw 2 essentially. Red's version of card draw. I think it's like a 2.
Yeah, there's one weird thing about this card compared to like Tormenting Voices. You don't have to discard a card. So it's not part of the casting cost like it usually is. It's an effect. And basically that means you can just play this to create the roll token if you really would need to.
That's interesting, because that's not usually relevant because there's not normally a second clause, but you're right. That's 100% what you can do. So if you don't want to, you could just play this, get the roll, kill them or something, or just be aggressive.
If you don't have any cards in hand, you don't want to discard your only other card, you need the celebration trigger. You're rarely going to do that, but it may come up, or a spell trigger for catapult.
Yeah. You're a little sad if that's where you're at, but hey, sometimes that's where we're at. So rating wise, I still think it's a 2.
Yeah, it's still a 2. It's just an interesting quirk of the card.
Witchstalker Frenzy, 4 mana for an instant. Costs 1 less to cast for each creature that is attacked this turn. It deals 5 damage to target creature. 4 mana at instant speed, 5 damage. That's pretty good.
Yeah, remove that first line of text and it's still great.
It is still great. Yeah, because normally these are 5 mana at sorcery speed for 5 damage in red.
Yep.
I mean, those are usually common. This is uncommon, so that makes sense. But yeah, this is a 4 for me. Premium removal.
Premium removal, it's great. Doesn't require you to be aggressive because you can play it on their turn when they attack you to make it cheaper.
Absolutely. All right, that is the end of red. Yanks, what did you think? I know you hated it, but what did you think?
There's some good cards in red. There's decent removal. We saw one of the very few 5s we've seen so far in the Dragon. but not overpowered rares. And it really feels like it's very heavy on the rat synergy and not so much on the other red archetypes.
Yeah, we saw some spells stuff,
Yeah.
but we didn't see much for Gruul. You're right
Yeah,
there.
very little.
Didn't really see like Boros.
Boros is Boros. It's just aggressive. There isn't a huge theme.
Yeah, but you can definitely tell when something wants to be in Boros.
Yeah.
Maybe the Boros synergy is that you're creating the rats to sack to White's Bargain.
Potentially, yeah.
And then what's the other color pairing? What am I missing?
That's it. We said black, blue, and green.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, it's fine. I'm really excited about this. I feel like we saw some premium 2-drop stuff, which we don't usually see, which kind of makes aggro decks not quite get there. And one of them was a rare, but we saw some really good stuff at Uncommon. I'm excited to see that rats got a little bit more support than they did last time with like the Mad Ratter and things like that. Excited to see there was actually some sort of payoffs for those versus just swarming. I like this. For those of you guys who are watching on YouTube, make sure you leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you think of the Eldraine set so far, and Red specifically. And more importantly, let us know if there were cards you think we were wrong on. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Just remember, keep it respectful. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.